I'm pleased to join you this morning as we launch the CSOs, as we launch the Kenya CSO Stakeholders Coalition report on the UPR midterm report. The UPR midterm report assesses the implementation of UPR recommendations supported by Kenya in the second cycle of the UPR, which took place for the period of 2015, is supposed to be concluding in 2019. We came together to craft the implementation matrix 3 years ago in a process that was led by the DOJ. And we thought that at that time, the third cycle was way far too off. But here we are. Now, since the first cycle of the UPR in 2010, we at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights are proud to say that we have been vibrantly engaging in the UPR process and have been instrumental in coordinating the Kenya CSO Coalition on the UPR, which is the main vehicle for CSO participation in the UPR process. The Commission is happy to know that the state has concluded its midterm report. During the first cycle, Kenya accepted a total of 144 out of the 150 recommendations that were made. And this translates to 96% acceptance rate, which was very good. So only, I think, out of 150, only 6 were noted. So they were not rejected, really, they were noted. In the second cycle, we had a total of 253 recommendations made to Kenya, and Kenya accepted 192 of those recommendations, which is still a very good and decent score, which translates to 75.8% acceptance rate. Our aim should be 100% acceptance. Let's keep working towards that. Now, the recommendations accepted in the second cycle crystallized into the government UPR implementation matrix and action plan, which was developed through a consultative process led by the Office of the Attorney General and Department of Justice. The implementation matrix is a critical document in the implementation of the recommendations arising out of the second UPR cycle. The CSO midterm report that we are launching today assesses the government performance on the basis of that implementation matrix. So we're not giving a score out of nothing, but that matrix forms a very good reference point. We really want to appreciate that in terms of enacting progressive laws and policies, the government has done very well. We have the Legal Aid Act that has been enacted, the Prevention of Torture Act, of which we are the custodians, the Commission, the Judiciary Fund, the National Coroner Service Act, the Health Act of 2017, and the Access to Information Act. We are especially excited at the adoption of the National Policy and Action Plan on Human Rights of 2015. We take cognizance of the ongoing efforts at the reviewing of the Children's Act, among other laws. We also acknowledge the ongoing efforts at progressive policies, or coming up with progressive policies, including a policy on public participation led by our very good partner, the Department of Justice, privacy and data protection policy, gender and equality policy, the National Legal Aid Policy and Action Plan, among others. And therefore you can see that in terms of the laws and policies, it's not for a dearth of those. We have those ones. The challenge has always been the implementation of those laws and policies. Kenya has also done very well in submitting its international reports in some aspects. And here I have in mind that Kenya has complied with its treaty body reporting obligations by submitting its report to the CEDAW Committee and the Committee Against Torture. Now, when it comes to criminal justice reform, again, a lot of good work has happened here. We've seen reform within the criminal justice system with the establishment of the National Committee on Criminal Justice Reform and the working group on the review of the mandatory death penalty, or death sentence rather. These efforts and the Supreme Court's judgment that declared the mandatory nature of the death sentence unconstitutional have taken us a step further towards the abolition of the death penalty. On echoes of rights, again, you all know, colleagues, that we have prioritized the implementation of economic and social cultural rights through the Big Four agenda and the development of the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights, as spearheaded again by the Office of the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. Let me briefly turn to the bad and the ugly or where we still have some challenges. Now, some areas of concern that we have noted include the following. That the state is yet to operationalize, Marcella, you spoke to this already, the PBO Act. I think we really need to move and operationalize this, despite 3 court orders on the same. There have been 3 court orders given, but then we have not operationalized this. The state is also yet to enact a comprehensive equality and anti-discrimination legislation. The state is yet to ratify optional protocol number 2 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. We'll continue working on that. There is law or no accountability on matters of extrajudicial executions, enforced disappearances and torture, convictions, reparations for human rights violations, including extrajudicial cases, SGBV cases, PEV cases, which continue to remain a worrying trend. Although, again, I want to report that we have had conversations on this through the ODPP, who have been very keen to work with a number of actors to ensure that cases of extrajudicial killings, especially by the police, are addressed. So we will continue working with that office and the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to ensure that this is addressed. Every year, if you look at the recommendations, there's been a recommendation on, can you fund the commission, our commission, sufficiently? We've continued to see a decline in the funding of the National Human Rights Institution, despite the commitment by the government to strengthen and allocate necessary human and financial resources so that we may fulfill our mandate. Another area of concern is that there is no full implementation of the decisions of the African Court and the African Commission, especially in the Ndorois and Ogiek matters. Well, some efforts have been made, but a lot more needs to be done so that we fully implement those recommendations. One other area of challenge, which is not a challenge for me, and I thank God for that, I'm always surrounded by powerful, intelligent, brilliant women, as is evidenced here today. And in the commission, yeah, I'm the only male commissioner. So again, in this country, where we have 53% women, why aren't we implementing the 2/3 gender principle? Why would somebody tell us that we're going to do this progressively? You only invoke progressive realization when resources are scarce. Nobody's going to tell us that we don't have enough women in this country to implement the 2/3 gender rule. So that's still an area of concern, and we hope that when it comes up in February, that it will be taken with the seriousness that it deserves.